Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how to address your partner's shortcomings without making them feel like a failure. This is especially important when you're dealing with a partner that may have some self-esteem issues. When you have self-esteem issues, any criticisms seem like an attack on you and in turn puts you on the defensive. So the question is, how do you address them without putting them on the defensive? Or at least with the likelihood of success of opening up a constructive dialogue. So, hey, let's get smarter. So your partner does something that you continually get upset about. How do you address it without making them feel like they've done something wrong or making them feel like a failure? The answer that I've had in my relationship, because I'm the one who is usually doing something wrong, is, and how do I know this, is because my wife tells me that she's perfect and never makes any mistakes. Now, I know it's just a joke, and I'll deny it if you repeat it to her, but she's usually right. When I was young, I was full of piss and vinegar and had severe self-esteem issues and took every criticism as a personal attack, and I would defend it to the death. As you can probably tell, this led to many confrontations, many fights, and general disruption in our relationship. Now, approaching 60 with bald head and graying beard, most of that has gone away. But the question is, how? The answer is my relationship with my wife and how she approached me. I've learned from her, and you can too. The strategy is to let your partner know how what they're doing makes you feel, instead of pointing fingers and letting them know that they were wrong. Let me give you an example. I grew up, for lack of a better word, poor, or at least lacking in financial resources. To me and in my own head, saying I can't afford that was tantamount of saying I'm poor and a piece of crap. So I would go to many lengths, including going into debt, to be able to spend money on things I simply could not afford. My wife, on the other hand, is really good with money. So here's the example. Early on in our relationship, maybe 1 or 2 years into it, we were both working at Subway, and we both lost our jobs. Now, normally and properly, that means your spending habits have to change. But in my head, that meant I was poor and a piece of crap. It took me right back to my childhood. So my spending habits did not change. And at that point, we didn't have a lot of credit cards, but we were still writing those things called checks, the paper things you write numbers on and sign. And I would employ the float strategy. And this resulted in many non-sufficient funds charges, money we did not have. And that did not sit well with my wife, who at that point was not my wife yet. As you can imagine, she wanted to talk with me about it. Well, I immediately went into defensive mode, and I was going to provide explanations for everything that I had done. I was ready. She wasn't going to denigrate me. All of what I did was necessary, which we both know was a load of BS. So she scheduled a time for us, and I geared up. But this is the genius of my wife and her approach. She didn't come at me with a, you did this, or you should have done X, or you were wrong. Any one of those approaches would have allowed me to defend myself by saying, we needed X, or I thought we'd have the money in the account by then. But instead, she very quietly and deliberately said, I think I'm going to get my own checking account. And I responded with a puffy voice, why? Fully expecting her to respond with, you're an idiot and don't know how to rein in your spending. Because secretly, that's how she felt. But her response was key. She said, quietly, because I don't have a lot of confidence in you right now. Ugh. Well, damn. How do I respond to that? I don't know about you, but I'd rather someone be angry with me than disappointed in me. And she was disappointed, which strangely enough, didn't feel accusatory. It let me know I had done something to let her down without slapping me in the face with what I did wrong. I couldn't come back with, yes you do, because I couldn't dictate how she felt. It's a small distinction, but it was key and so important. Here's another example. In relationships where you have children, it's something that I've stated to hundreds and hundreds of parents during my career as a family law attorney, is that different parents parent differently. The same is true in couples, even if they're still together. Now, most of the time you're on the same page, but usually you have one parent that's more disciplinary than the other, sort of a good cop, bad cop situation. Well, as you could probably guess, I was the bad cop. There were times I would discipline our daughter, not spanking her, beating her up, or berating her, but more strict discipline than I knew my wife would carry out. I would come into the living room and say, "Was that too hard?" Instead of her saying, "Yeah, that was a real butt move," which in turn would put me on the defensive, she quietly would say, "I would have done it differently." That's 5 words that changed the course of the interaction. What her comment to me did was allowed for a discussion on our different parenting techniques rather than put me on the defensive to defend what I had done and why. Her response to me allowed me to say, "What would you have done differently?" The dialogue allowed us to become more on the same page, either her position towards mine or my position towards hers in raising our daughter. Now, make no mistake, it doesn't work all the time. She and I still have very differing opinions on the strategies of raising a child. They're not drastic. In fact, they're quite subtle, unless you ask our daughter. The point of this is how you communicate to your spouse or significant other is key to resolving the conflict. And it's even more important when you have a spouse or significant other that has self-esteem issues. You're going to be able to tell that if they're always on the defensive, if they're quick to anger. There's something about their personality that they're simply not secure with. That's certainly the case in my situation. And I didn't grow out of it until probably mid-30s, mid-30s, early 40s. If you find yourself in this situation, try my wife's technique. Don't fly off the handle, no matter what the problem is. Develop a strategy to address their fails without making them feel like a failure. It worked for me, and I swear it will work for you too. What do you think about my wife's technique? Would it work for you in your relationship? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you have any questions or suggestions, then feel free to mention them, and I'll surely get back to you. If you like this video, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.